fold, and that means Cowboys-Eagles. David, we'll start with you. Grade the game for us. Performance or just an average team playing a really bad team?
Well, here's some numbers. I'll let you decide. The Cowboys in 2 games against Philadelphia this year have averaged 38 points. Against their other 10 opponents on the schedule, they've averaged 20.3 points. So I believe some of it is the competition they're facing here. But again, this is a win they had to have even a faint hope of the playoffs going into these final 4 games. So at least that's something they can cling to. If they had lost this, you spin off and start talking about all kinds of other stories that had nothing to do with these final 4 games.
They're in it. They're still got those playoff hopes out there. Goose, will you please?
Well, they beat a JV team. Philadelphia was without 7 starters in offense, and they still scored a season-high points. They had over more yards than the Cowboys, 400 yards. They rushed for, the one kid rushed for 170 yards. The Eagles are playing without their quarterback, their running back, their best wide receiver, their left tackle, and their best pass rusher. Now, if you took the Cowboys and took away Romo, Murray, Bryant, Tyron Smith, and DeMarcus Ware, could that group play into the final minute for an onside kick? No.
Probably not.
And yet the Eagles hung in there in a game they had no. This should have been a 31-10 game. This team is not ready for a playoff run.
Yeah, we saw some bad defense yesterday. Neither defense was particularly tough. Each team with more than 400 yards of total offense in this one. And the Cowboys D forced a grand total of 2 Philadelphia punts. I mean, they were just running all over the place. What do you think's going on with the Cowboys defense right now? Is it scheme or just who they got?
Well, that was by design because they wanted to keep Matt McBriar off the field because he knows the stadium and he knows how to punt there. So that was by design, Rick. So give him some credit for that. But, at this stage, injuries aren't an excuse. But at this stage, I believe this defense has reached the breaking point where they are defensively. They just don't have the depth to compensate for the players they've lost in the positions they've lost across the board. And it's going to catch up for them. And I'll tell you, while this defense didn't win games for this team early in the season, it kept the team in games and gave them a chance to win. I don't know that this defense can do this over the final 4 games. Now it's going to be up to the offense to step up and try to bail out the defense, which I thought the defense did a decent job of doing that earlier in the season with the offense.
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware, I mean, they did a pretty good job blocking him yesterday. Rob Ryan says, well, we got to get better, but we're banged up. How do we do it?
I think it comes down to 2 guys. When they lost Lee and then Bruce Carter, you can't run on the Cowboys with those 2. You cannot run at Sean Lee, and you can't run away from Bruce Carter. Now both those guys are gone. Redskins, Alf Morris ran pretty good. This kid ran wild, making a 2nd career start, a 7th-round draft pick, ran through like the Cowboys, like they were the Dave Campo Cowboys. And now you got then Jarvis Green coming in here. He's had 3 consecutive 100-yard games. You got to look at Alfred Morris. Pittsburgh is a running team. The Saints have Pierre Thomas. They got 3 or 4 guys who can run the ball. And everybody's going to run in the Cowboys because the Cowboys right now can't stop the run. I don't know what you can do to fix it at this point, unless you tell your 2 corners you're alone and invest 9 guys in stopping the run and rushing the passer, which I think they probably should do.
To get into the playoffs, I mean, they pretty much have to win 4 of the last 5. Do you see that with this schedule coming up with the Steelers, Saints, Redskins?
Well, I thought, it's actually I would argue that they are going to be relevant in the wild card race. The problem is the AFC wild card race because they face Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in these next 2 weeks. I think what they do will help determine the AFC wild card. I thought for a while it's stacking up like they really don't have a shot at the NFC wild card. Their best chance is still going through with a division title. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Andy Dalton of TCU, well aware of that. Stay with us still to come. We'll have more Cowboys-Eagles discussion, and then
Mavs, Clippers, Wednesday at 9 on Fox Sports Southwest.
Welcome back to the show as we continue Cowboys talk here. Only 2 winning Decembers in the last 20 years for the boys, and they probably need to go 4-1 finish to get into the playoffs. Now, Tony Romo had a huge night against the Eagles, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and in the process became the Cowboys' all-time touchdown king, passing Troy Aikman. Is this skewed kind of video game kind of numbers here, Goose? Do you Think this record's legit?
No, the records are completely out of whack. All the pass numbers. Last year, Cam Newton, as a rookie, his first 2 games passed for 400 yards each of the first. Does that make him the greatest rookie passer in history? Troy Aikman played on a great team that ran the ball. The 1-yard touchdowns the Cowboys scored were on Emmitt Smith. They weren't little roll-out bootleg passes to Jason Witten. The numbers, all passing numbers. The fact that Drew Brees breaks the Unitas record. You're going to, in the next 10 years, every passing record from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s are going to be broken by all franchises.
Yeah, you look at Tony Romo, he got over 25,000 yards in passing, and maybe statistically the guy that goes down as the Cowboys' greatest quarterback ever, but you got no Super Bowl trophies there.
Yeah, and again, he did this, he did this in 6 years compared to a sample size of 12 with Troy. And the other thing is, when you're falling behind in games 23-0 at home, like they did against New York, or 28-3, like they did against Washington, then you come back and you throw 62 times, like Tony Romo did in that Washington game. So, and all of the rules since then, too, the game has changed. It's all about getting matchups and guys in space. And the rules always favor the offense and getting guys out in space. And the other side of this is, I think Emmitt's record is going to stand for a long, long time.
Well, we've been very critical about Dez Bryant, and he had his 3rd straight strong game. 6 catches, 96 yards, 2 really manly touchdowns, and he didn't make any obvious mental mistakes out there. Is he trending in the right direction right now?
Well, he's definitely trending in the right direction. He's a happy camper. When you're getting all the passes, scoring all the touchdowns, it's easy to be happy and playing well and be into it. You know, last 2 games, Miles Austin has caught 2 passes. So let's see Dez when the ebb dips away from him, and he's not the feature guy, and they're going more to Witten, more to Austin. Let's see if he can hold it together and be the great team guy, you know, when he's getting 1, 2, and 3 catches a game. Right now, when you're getting 15 passes and making 12 catches, scoring 2 touchdowns, it's easy to be a great team guy and a great attitude guy.
Funny thing about Dez, in his first 39 regular season games, he actually has more touchdowns, more receptions than the other 2 88s, Michael Irvin and Drew Pearson. Got to resign him, right?
Well, that goes back to what we were just talking about with Romo in the passing era. Again, they're throwing a lot more. And you go back earlier this season, he was behind both of those guys. And what were people saying after the Chicago game when he had a 100-yard game where he ran a wrong route that ended up in a pick 6, where he's coming out in games and getting flags thrown for engaging physically with other players and guys taking him off his game? That's where he's made progress this season, I think you can see on the field. And really, I'm not so concerned with him the rest of this season. The concern is February, March, April, May. Let's see the focus and the discipline and the maturity at that stage, and that is what is yet to be seen with Dez Bryant.
He showed us some control, though, with D'Angelo Hall. He wanted to hit him, but he didn't. In that one game, would you re-sign him if you're Jerry Jones?
I think Jerry will. Doesn't matter what I think, but I think Jerry will. Jerry has a tough time letting talent walk. And this guy is a marvelously talented player. And if all of a sudden he got on the straight and narrow and was a great player for the rest of his career and a good person for the rest of his life, he'd be a guy you'd sign tomorrow. But I think Jerry will wait it out, but I do think he will re-sign him. And he's a very talented guy.
And these are tough calls because right now you say yes. If you ask this, you know, in the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks of the season, you would have felt completely differently. And then the prevailing mood was, will this guy ever get it? Just because he's done it for 3 games now doesn't mean the guy has gotten it. Consistency has to be a lot more than 3 games within one stretch of a season.
And Rick, there's also this organization has long had a fear of the unknown. If Dez isn't here, who's our guy? Is it Kevin Ogletree? Cole Beasley? I mean, this organization has shown no ability to replace great players. And if you let Dez Bryant go, who gets the money?
Got to be careful with the emotional decision. We've seen that with Josh Hamilton with the Rangers. Stay with us, still to come.